Hello, this is Jenna Covington here. I finished my summative reflection for the Visual Thinking Strategies course. I did start by making a video of my process, which I will include screenshots of the video on my blog, but turns out I was just so tired last night, and after my long day today, I was talking really slow and editing through 5 hours. Once I got through 2 hours of editing, I decided it might be better just to do it this way because it's impossible for me to edit it down enough that you guys will kind of get a gist of everything that's going on in this image. So I'm just going to kind of point and talk through it. I might miss some things. This is just like jam-packed of 5 hours worth of thought. But here we go. So first off, you'll notice these big, ominous shapes here. So these would be the three questions. And through my summative reflection, I decided to investigate the space between the questions when you're doing a visual thinking strategy, and just kind of thinking about and connecting different ideas that are happening throughout these three questions. Because when you think of VTS, you think of the three questions, and it seems pretty simple, right? But I mean, if it were so simple, there wouldn't be two graduate courses about it. So these are the three questions. I'm not in any really specific order, but I was thinking probably what's going on in this image, what do you see that makes you say that, and what more can we find? In the center of the image is a figure. This is, I made it a male figure, and I'll talk more about that later, but this is the facilitator, okay? So in the center of the image, you have the facilitator, and most everything in black has to do with the facilitator, and everything in color has to do with the students. So you have this facilitator, and here there's an eye, which represents the facilitator's intent, because the facilitator has intent while doing the VTS. Throughout the entire image, there's this gold leaf paint, which just represents reflection. Obviously, metallic gold is reflective, not trying to just like be like, oh hey, this represents reflection because it's reflective, but it also represents like illuminating different ideas and thoughts through reflection of the process, because we've noticed through VTS there is a ton of reflection. So back to him, he's got gold in his brain, in his heart, in his eyes, he's watching, in his ears, listening, feeling. So there were kind of different facets here. Over here, we talk about the dialogue of the facilitator, and so starting down here, kind of talk about paraphrasing. So in this area, I wrote kick or stomp. So this is the opportunity for you to use the student's word and also use a new word, just to kind of give you the opportunity to increase their vocabulary, like person or figure, walking to and fro or pacing, putting together or synthesizing. So it just gives us the ability to build their vocabulary. Over here, I think I was talking about conditional languaging, so kind of going through the cycle and opening up. You're listening to the response, and then you paraphrase and you open up the opportunity for other interpretations. So I wrote in some different conditional language, possibly, maybe, etc. Over here, I talk about, I kind of am talking about your response to a student's comment. So whether you say good or interesting, which I wrote in here, great, oh wow, you want them to be equal. And also I kind of wanted to relate back to the figure. So Mary Franco told us this story about a male who's like the super tall male, maybe went to the university or something, but the students like were like kind of, like interested in this guy. And so whenever they would make noticings and he would go, interesting, the students were really like keen with that, and it really seemed to boost their confidence, or it was something of the sorts. Um, so in here, along like with all of the praising, the equal praising, the color represents a student, but this is like permanent marker, so it represents this like permanence and confidence, and it also motivates them to participate, and so on and so forth. So now up here I have like these, I started with this cross, and then I started to go on thinking about how the teacher connects different responses. And then the students are up here, and they begin to connect to each other's responses once the teacher does. I've seen that later in my classroom, where students started to connect to each other's. For example, the last image I did, one student talked about the squalor of the home, and then all of the other students started talking about the squalor and poverty and slaves and white slaves and all sorts of things. They were just making all these connections, which was really awesome. So I have this layering of color and so on. Over here, I started with just this kind of like branch that branched out. This section is kind of like about image choice. So the facilitator has to choose the image, and this branch is like represents, each branch is like kind of a different opportunity for meaning and narrative. You have to pick an image that has many different opportunities, many different things going on that could be, sorry, my words aren't working right now, but a lot of different possibilities. And then, so the students pick up on these, like this student here really like picked up on this one. That same example I used, there was an image with figures and squalor. It was a photograph. The man was dressed a little bit nicer. But this student was like, they look so dirty and stuff. She's like, I wonder if any of them are deceased, because she pulled on previous knowledge that sometimes they would take photos with the deceased, just to have like a last portrait. So then she would come in and keep talking about this, and started getting a little bit more morbid. And and here's this black line, which is my teacher influence. I was kind of, what do you see that makes you say that? Whenever she talked about the eyebrows, she's like, oh, they don't have any eyebrows, and you lose hair when you die. So maybe they're deceased. And I'm like, what do you see that makes you say they don't have eyebrows, And then once she got to like the super morbid stuff, I kind of just did a U-turn. And I was like, okay, what more can we find? Which is important. And that leads me over here. There were a bunch of ratings written down that got covered up with other things, but choosing an image that's appropriate is important. In this image, like, I really didn't even think that they would go that way, and it was really just this one student who started talking about morbid ideas, and the other class started to ponder them. I had no idea it would go that way, and I looked at the image for a long time. I would probably still use the image again. I would just work more on U-turning, but yeah, down here, it was like, I was kind of talking about student dialogue, talking about how they might kindly disagree with each other, and how that is encouraged. Let's see, up here, I kind of was thinking about the introduction. So that's part of the dialogue. I'm going back over here because now I'm trying to pick up things that I've missed on. So in the introduction, we kind of state our expectations for participation and such, and so on and so forth. Around the figure, I wrote different words, like neutral. The facilitator is supposed to stay neutral, keep the conversation moving. And over here, I kind of like made this really interesting shape because I was thinking about how the image not only needs to have like many different elements to look at, it also needs to be intriguing in a way. And like in the introduction, before Mary suggested that we have the students rate the image before and after, because a lot of times an image doesn't look interesting at first, but then after you get into it, it does. That kind of connected to the idea of choosing an intriguing image, just to get the kids excited about the VTS and give them a lot of opportunities to notice different things. I kind of talked about the expectations of the image, like really you want it to be kind of realistic or maybe a little abstract photography, maybe have figures. You don't really want non-objective very often. But yeah, so I'm sure that there's more things in my video. I'll go back and listen and maybe add a couple things in, but this is my investigation and my summative reflection.